Hey students, this is Miss Trivett, and our first video is from Chapter 1, Lesson 1. You should have your math journal out, ready to go. You should have some sections drawn inside of it, same way we did in class, all ready to go. Your learning target section at the top right-hand corner. Underneath that, the rest of the page will be teacher notes, which I'll be giving you today. The left-hand side of your journal, when you have it open, should be your student work section. If you want to work through some of the extra problems I give you, you can. And then the bottom left is going to be for our summary. We will not get to every section today, but you can wait until we get into class so I can teach you how to use all the other sections. The first thing we're going to want to do is make sure our math book is open to page 4. Having a math book in front of you is important so that you can see the examples that I'm pulling from. If you don't have your math book, you can still take great notes, but it'll help you if you can see those examples. First thing we'll do in our journals is find the learning target section, and we're going to write in our learning target. So today it's going to say, I can perform operations with whole numbers. And you're going to have to bear with me here because my handwriting is not going to be so good with this new pen, but I will do my best. So I can perform operations with whole numbers. Remember to pause the video as many times as you need to be able to catch up to what I'm doing. If I write too fast, pause and continue writing. Go back, listen again if you need to. Fast forward if I'm going too slow, whatever you need to do so it's right for you. So we've got our learning target in. In the teacher note section, we're going to start off with a little vocabulary. You might know these words already, but it's good to have them in. So the first one we're going to write down is the word sum. If you see the word sum in a problem, that's going to ask you to be adding. So the addition sign is what we're going to put there. And that's going to be the answer to an addition problem, is the sum. The next one is called the difference. If you see the word difference in a problem, they're going to be asking you to subtract. And so that's the answer to a subtraction problem. The next one is product. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. And lastly, it's quotient. And that's the answer to a division problem. There's quite a few ways you can write division, so we'll use this one for now. Those are the 4 different operations they're talking about here in our learning target. Perform operations with whole numbers. So today we're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing based upon word problems they give us. The last 2 words I want to share with you are ones that have to do with the division section, but a lot of kids get these mixed up. So let's say we have a division problem like this. 3 divided by 2. So these 2 numbers, the one on the outside of the bar and the inside of the division line, have actual vocabulary terms. So this one out here is called the divisor. And this one underneath here is called the dividend. And I get those mixed up all the time. Other people do too, so it's probably important to have those written down. So now that we've got those all figured out, we can go ahead and get some examples done. So I'm going to go ahead and switch colors to our example color. I'm going to use red today for examples. So our examples I'm going to read first from the book. Example 1 has an A and a B section, so I've put example 1A. I'll read right from page 4. You'll see the example 1 called adding and subtracting whole numbers. The bar graph shows the attendance at a 3-day art festival. So if you look on the left, you've got a purple bar graph. The bottom represents the days of the art festival, excuse me, and the side represents how many people attended on that day. The first question, so question 1A, says, what is the total attendance for the art festival? So in this case, the word total attendance is asking us to figure out how many total people are there. So it's asking us to actually use addition for this problem. So let's pull out the important information they give us and write it down in our notes. There is a 3-day festival that we're talking about. And then in that festival, they want the total attendance. And in this case, the word total is going to be the important word that helps us determine that we are going to be adding. So we're going to have total and adding. So if we look at our bar graph, the numbers on top of the bars are going to be what we're adding. Those are the number of people that went each day. So the first number we're going to add is 2,570. The next number is 3,145. Next we have 3,876. So this is the math work we're going to be doing. So I'm going to let you pause the video and actually add up your columns. You should know how to do this from previous math. If you're not sure, you can always come in and get some extra assistance from me. Pause the video if you don't want to hear the answer right away and try it on your own. Here is the answer. So if you did your addition correctly, this column should have a 1 underneath. This column should have a 9 underneath. This one's going to have a 5, and this one's going to have a 9. So our total attendance, 9,591. And question B. Question B, if we look back on page 4, says, what is the increase in attendance from day 1 to day 2? So we're looking from day 1 to day 2, so we'll write that down. And increase is what we're looking for. So important word there. What is the increase from day 1 to day 2? So really, this is day 1 up here, and this is day 2's attendance. So if I want to know how much it is from here to here, I can kind of work backwards and subtract to get my increase. So if I subtract, I'll figure out what the difference is between the two. So increase is telling us to use subtraction. Let me go over here and scroll down a little bit so we have some space. So what we'll do is start with the big number first, 3,145. We will subtract 2,570 and get our total. Again, pause the video if you want to work on this individually, if you need a little subtraction practice. The answer to this, in this column, the first column here should be a 5. This column should be a 7. And this column should be a 5. So 575 people more came on day 2 than on day 1. Next, we have example 2. We're still on page 4. So I'm going to switch colors so you can see the difference between the two examples. Let's try this one. Example 2. Reading from the book, it says a school lunch contains 12 chicken nuggets. 95 students buy the lunch. What is the total number of chicken nuggets served? So let's pull out some important information and jot it down again. We have learned reading this question that in a school lunch, there are 12 nuggets. Which seems like a lot, but that's okay. Also, we've learned that 95 students purchase this lunch. And the question they're asking us to find is the total nuggets. So again, we see this word total. Now previously, we added when we saw the word total. But in this case, if we add 95 and 12, we're not actually going to get how many total nuggets, all of these 95 students. One student has 12 nuggets. So we actually have to multiply in this situation. If one student has 12 nuggets, 95 students multiplied by 12 nuggets will give us our final number of nuggets. So if we take our 95 and we multiply by 12, we should have our final answer of nuggets. If you need a little extra multiplication practice, go ahead and pause the video now and multiply. I'm actually going to do this one completely in front of you so you remember how to do multiplication. 5 times 2, we start in this column here. We're going to start with our 2. So 2 times 5. We carry the 1 because it's 10. 2 times 9 gives us 18, and we add the little 1 up here, so that would be 19. So we've taken care of our ones digit. So what I like to do is cross out the top number when I'm finished with it, and I call that my tick. We've done our 2's, so that's a tack. And now if we move over to the next column, we have to add a 0 in the ones column. So I say tick, tack, toe to remember how to do that. So from here, I'm going to use my 1. So 1 times 5 gives me 5. 1 times 9 gives me 9. I've already used that little 1 from previous, so I don't need to use it again. The last step here is going to be adding up my 2 columns. So I have a 0 in this section, 14. So I'm going to carry the 1, write down the 4, and an 11, which means there are 1,140 total chicken nuggets that have been purchased. All right, time to flip the page to page 5. Take a look at page 5. There are 3 on your own questions if you'd like to try those. Number 1 is addition, number 2 is subtraction, and number 3 is multiplication. So if you would like to try those out, pause the video now and try them out. I'm about to say the answers. So pause the video. If you'd like the answers now, hopefully you tried them out. Number 1 on your own is 2,427. Number 2 is 113. And number 3 is 4,956. So that's if you tried your on your own at the top of page 5. Okay, so let's get back to our examples. We have example 3. I'm going to switch pen colors here. Let's try purple this time. All right, so example 3 is dividing whole numbers with no remainder left over. So we already know at the end is going to be no remainder. Dividing is usually everyone's favorite to do. So let's go through this one. The question says you make 24 equal payments for a go-kart. You pay a total of $840. How much is each payment? So there's quite a few different things in there that tell us we're going to be dividing. So let's write down some of these interesting things. First thing it says, one of the things it says is that we're going to make 24 equal payments. So let's write that down. Now this word is important right here, equal. That means each of our equal payments is going to be exactly the same amount. So equal payments gives us a hint of division. Next thing they give us is that the total money that we pay is $840. So again, we see this important word total. Before we used multiplication and addition. This one is going to be division. And the last thing it says is find each payment. We want to know what each payment is. So this special word here, each, is what we're going to use. So this all tells us that we are going to be using division for this one. So our division problem, the 2 numbers they give us are 840 and 24. So we have to divide 840 total dollars by 24 equal payments. And that will give us what each payment individually costs. So if we set this up over here, we're dividing 840, that's going to be our dividend, by 24, our divisor. So we're asking how many times can 24 go into 840? So a good way to start doing that is 24 into 8. 24 cannot go into 8, so we're going to move on. 24 into 84. Well, yes, 24 can go into 84. And that can go into 3 times. So now we do 24 times 3. I'll do that on the side to see how close to 84 we can get. 24 times 3 gives us 72. So I'm going to write that 72 underneath the 84 and use subtraction. If I subtract, I have a 2 here and a 1 here. You always want to make sure this number is never bigger than this number, and it's smaller so we know we're okay. The next step is to take this little 0 and bring it down. And now I'm going to ask myself how many times 24 can go into 120. And 24 can go into 120 in the even number of times, and it's 5 times. 24 times 5 is exactly 120, so there is no remainder left over. That tells me that each payment over here that we're looking for is $35. So if I make 24 equal payments of $35, I'm going to get to $840 total. That is example 3. Oops. There we go. We're going to go ahead and turn the page to page 6. At the top of page 6, there are some more on your own ones you can try. If you want to go to the left-hand side of your journal and try those out, you can pause the video now, and I will give you the answers in just a second. So pause the video so you don't hear the answers. So if you've tried them out, here are the answers. Number 4 is 26. Number 5 is 17. Number 6 is 8. And number 7 is 31. So if you've tried those out, that's what you should have for your final answers. We only have one more example left, and I'll go ahead and switch colors one more time. So example 4. Reading from page 6, example 4 is a little bit lengthy. It says a 301-foot-high swing at an amusement park can take 64 people on each ride. A total of 8,983 people ride the swing today. All the rides are full except for the last ride. How many rides are given? How many people are on the last ride? So there's a number of questions here that they're asking about. So if we pull out some important information, one of the things it tells us on this particular ride is that 64 people can go on this ride at a time. So I'm going to write that down in our notes. It also tells us that the total, again, we see that total word, that ride on the ride that day is 8,983. They say all are full. All the rides are full that day, not the last one. So really, the same number of people, 64 people, are going to go on every single ride. And this is how many total people we had going on the ride. So with all of these things in mind, this is going to tell us we are going to use some division. If I have this many total people divided this many per ride, I'm going to get how many rides were given that day. So over here, we're going to set this up one similar to example 3. We have 8,983 as our dividend, and we have 64 as our divisor. So can 64 go into 8? Well, no, it cannot, so we're going to move on. Can 64 go into 89? Yes, it can. It can go into 89 just one time, so we're going to put a 1 above the 9. 64 times 1 is 64, so we'll draw that underneath the 89 and subtract. See what's left over. Subtracting 89 and 64 will give us 25 left over. So this 25 is less than 64, so we know we've done our job here. We now have to bring down the 8. 64 can go into 258. We need to know how many times. If you want to pause the video here and continue the rest on your own before I give you the answer, that would be just fine. It can actually go in 4 times. And over here on the side, if I do 64 times 4, I will end up getting 256. So if I write the 256 underneath here and subtract, I end up with just 2 little things remaining. I have this 3 to bring down. Can 64 go into 23? It actually cannot. So after I bring down the 3, it can't go into that number, so I have to put a 0 there. And 0 times 64 is 0, so I have a 23 as a remainder. Sometimes you can convert that into a decimal. Right now I'm just going to do this because I need to go back to my question. The question asks us, all rides are full except for the last ride. How many rides are given? Well, if there are this many rides given that are full, I can say that there are 140 full rides given. Then it says how many people are on the last ride. If you have a remainder of 23, then it tells us that 23 people are on the very last ride instead of the full 64 people. So that is our last example. We did some addition, subtraction, multiplication, and a couple division problems to practice today. If you want to try one more section on your own at the bottom of page 6, 8, 9, 10, and 11, go ahead and pause the video here and try them out if you'd like. And I'm going to give the answers. So pause the video if you don't want to hear the answers. And the answers are to number 8. Number 8's division question is 203 and 1/5. So there's a little remainder there. Number 9, 1,631, and the remainder there turns into 23 over 28. Number 10's division problem would be 7 and 41 over 86. And number 11 ends up being 142 rides, and that does not have a remainder. Okay, thank you for listening to your very first video. If you turn to page 7, pages 7, 8, 9, and 10, just 7, 8, and 9, that's going to be where our practice problems come from. Any problem that we do not complete in class together or I assign you can absolutely always be used as extra practice if you need it at home. So I hope you enjoyed your first video, and thank you for taking excellent notes.